The art of laziness. Okay, that sounds like a total contradiction, right? But what if I told you that the secret to actually becoming more productive and taking control of your life is, weirdly enough, hidden inside this idea of laziness? Let's dive in and see what that's all about. Now, let's be super clear about one thing right up front. This isn't about giving you an excuse to just be lazy. Not at all. It's about understanding the mindset that leads to inaction, that feeling of being stuck, so that we can finally break free from it. So the whole journey really kicks off with one single powerful question. And I want you to really think about this for a second. Picture yourself at 80 years old, looking back over your entire life. What do you think you'll regret? Well, the research on this is pretty clear. Most of our deepest regrets don't come from the mistakes we made, but from the chances we didn't take. Not chasing that thing you loved, wasting precious time, not prioritizing your health or the people you care about. That's the real cost of putting things off. Okay, so how do we make sure we don't end up with a life full of those regrets? Well, it all starts with the very first rule, the foundation for everything else, taking 100% responsibility for your life. I really love this quote from Winston Churchill because of how it frames this idea. He's not saying responsibility is some heavy burden you have to carry. No, he's saying it's the price of admission. It's what you have to pay to achieve anything worthwhile. And this chart just lays it out so perfectly. Blaming other people, your boss, the economy, whatever, sure, it might feel good for a minute, gets you off the hook, but it solves absolutely nothing and leaves you powerless. Now, taking responsibility, yeah, it's harder, but it's the only way you actually get the power to change things and find real solutions. There's this great little story that really drives this point home. So you have this farmer, right? His wheat is ready to be harvested. First, he tells his neighbors he's waiting for his sons to do it. The wheat just sits there. Then he says he's going to hire some workers. Still, nothing happens. But then the farmer finally says, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going out there and I'm going to harvest this wheat myself. And what do you know? The work got done. The lesson is so simple, but it's so profound. Nobody is coming to save you. You have to take action yourself.
Okay, so if taking responsibility is the first step, how do we make it a default setting? How do we make it a habit? Well, that brings us to the next big piece of the puzzle, actively rewiring your mindset. And it all comes down to the small choices you make every single day.
This slide right here highlights one of the biggest paradoxes of life. All those easy choices we make in the moment, mindlessly scrolling social media, binging another show, putting off that big task, they feel good now, but they add up to a hard life later. But if you make the hard choices now, going for that run, reading that book, that's what builds an easier, more rewarding life down the road. And that brings us to a tough truth. Discomfort is going to be part of the deal one way or another. You can either choose the pain of discipline now, which is temporary, or you can face the pain of regret later, which, that sticks around for a lifetime. The choice is always yours. So, what's one of the biggest excuses our brain uses to avoid those hard choices? Perfectionism. That need to wait for the perfect time or the perfect plan. The source material calls it a disease, and I think that's about right. And the cure? It's simple. Action. Just start. Okay, so we've covered the mindset shift. Now let's get into the practical stuff. Let's talk about some actual tools you can use to start working smarter, not just harder. First up is the 80-20 rule. You might have heard it called the Pareto principle. The basic idea is just wild. In pretty much anything you do, about 80% of your results will come from just 20% of your efforts. So your job, your mission, is to figure out what that high-impact 20% is and just relentlessly focus your energy there. Next is Parkinson's Law, and I promise you've experienced this. You know how if your boss gives you a week to do a 2-hour task, it somehow magically takes the entire week? That's Parkinson's Law. The way to beat it is to give yourself shorter deadlines. You create your own urgency. And hey, if a task feels huge, just use the 5-minute rule. Tell yourself you'll just work on it for 5 minutes. You'd be amazed how often you just keep going. And this proverb from Confucius, it just absolutely nails the problem with multitasking. We think we're being super efficient, chasing 2 rabbits at once, but in reality, we're just splitting our attention and pretty much guaranteeing we're not going to catch either one. So how do you actually fight that constant urge to multitask? It really comes down to 3 pretty simple steps. Number 1, work on one single thing at a time. Number 2, clear your space of all distractions. And number 3, and this one is a biggie, turn off all those non-essential notifications on your phone. It sounds small, but it's a total game changer. All right, so we've talked about mindset, we've talked about tools, and that brings us to our last and honestly most important point. When you strip everything else away, it all boils down to this one simple truth. Wow, Picasso really puts it in perspective, doesn't he? Only put off until tomorrow what you are willing to die having left undone. Next time you're about to procrastinate, just to ask yourself that question. It kind of changes things, right? Look, you've probably heard this a million times, but it's true for a reason. They say the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Well, the second best time is right now. Don't wait for Monday or for the new year or for the perfect moment. It doesn't exist. Just start now. So we're going to leave you with this one final challenge. You just spent these last few minutes learning how to beat procrastination. The real question is, what are you going to do with the next 5 minutes to actually put one of these ideas into action?